Baseball always has a way of reminding us that development is never a straight line, and that is exactly why so many eyes are locked on players who are still carving out their identity at the major league level. When a young player first arrives in the big leagues, expectations can explode overnight, but the reality is that growth takes time. One of the most interesting examples right now is a hitter who, not long ago, was still adjusting to the speed of professional baseball. Early on, things did not always look smooth. There were moments where the timing was off, where the swing looked a little rushed, and where the results simply did not match the talent everyone believed was there. But last season marked a turning point. Little by little, confidence started to show up in the batter's box, and by the time the season unfolded completely, it was clear that something was changing. Power began to surface in a way that could not be ignored. Home runs started leaving the park with authority, and suddenly opposing pitchers had to treat every plate appearance as a real threat. What made it even more impressive was the way those moments carried into the postseason, where the pressure is higher and every pitch feels heavier. In those games, he did not look overwhelmed. In fact, he looked like someone who belonged right in the middle of the action. The ball was jumping off the bat, the swings looked confident, and the production made it clear that he could be a key piece of an offense when the spotlight shines brightest. Still, one thing that often gets overlooked in conversations about players like this is how little time they have actually spent in the major leagues. It is easy for fans to look at a few exciting playoff games and suddenly expect that level of dominance every single night. But development does not work that way. When you look around the roster, there are several players who are still relatively new to this level. They are talented, no doubt about it, but they are also learning on the fly. The adjustment period in the majors can be brutal, and even the most promising prospects need time to refine their approach, understand pitching tendencies, and build consistency over a full season. That is why it is important to separate the emotional moments of the postseason from the everyday grind of the regular season. October baseball can create legends overnight, but the long season before it is where players truly prove what they are. When you evaluate the full picture, it becomes clear that there is still plenty of room for growth. The encouraging part, however, is that the progress is already visible. Comparing the swing mechanics from 2 seasons ago to what we saw last year tells a fascinating story. Subtle adjustments have started to appear, and sometimes those tiny details can make a massive difference in performance. One of the most noticeable changes comes from the way the body is working through the swing. Previously, there were moments where the movement looked tight and restricted, almost like the hitter was holding back instead of unleashing his natural power. Now the motion appears more open, more fluid, and that small adjustment allows the bat to travel through the hitting zone longer. When a hitter can keep the barrel in the zone for more time, it increases the chances of solid contact dramatically. The result is a combination every team dreams about: power that comes naturally in contact that continues to improve. A lot of credit has to go to the coaching staff for guiding that transformation. Hitting at the major league level is not just about raw talent. It is about constant refinement, studying video, making micro adjustments, and building an approach that can survive against elite pitching. The progress seen over the last season did not happen by accident. It came from hours of work, careful adjustments, and a commitment to improving every detail of the swing. Now, with a new season approaching, the conversation naturally shifts toward expectations. Projection models and analysts have begun throwing out numbers about what kind of production might come next. Some estimates suggest a moderate number of home runs over the course of the year, assuming a solid but still developing role in the lineup. But when you look at the power that flashed last season, especially during high-pressure moments, it is hard not to wonder if those projections might be underselling the potential a little bit. Power has never been the question. The real conversation revolves around balance. How much power should a hitter chase? And how much should he focus on simply reaching base and creating opportunities for the offense? In today's game, that debate has become one of the most interesting strategic shifts in baseball. For years, the long ball dominated the conversation. Teams chased home runs relentlessly, and hitters were encouraged to swing for the fences as often as possible. But slowly, the league has begun to rediscover the value of something more traditional, putting the ball in play, moving runners, and forcing defenses to make plays. There is something contagious about a lineup that keeps the pressure on. When one hitter reaches base, then another follows, and another after that, the entire dugout starts to come alive. Pitchers feel the tension rising, defenders begin to rush their decisions, and suddenly a simple single can turn into a rally that changes the game. That style of baseball does not always produce highlight reel home runs, but it can be incredibly effective over the course of a season. For a young hitter with legitimate power, the challenge becomes finding the perfect balance between aggression and discipline. Swinging at every strike might lead to the occasional towering home run, but it can also create unnecessary outs. On the other hand, learning to choose the right pitches, the ones that can truly be driven, can transform a hitter from a raw slugger into a complete offensive threat. That kind of maturity at the plate does not appear overnight. It develops through experience, through failure, and through countless at-bats against pitchers who are constantly trying to exploit weaknesses. And that is exactly why the upcoming season feels so important. The tools are clearly there. The power is real. The adjustments are happening. Now the next step is consistency, proving that the flashes of brilliance we saw before can evolve into something that lasts over the long haul of a major league schedule. If that happens, the lineup gains a weapon that can change games in multiple ways, not just with a long ball, but with smart at-bats, timely hits, and the kind of presence that keeps pitchers uncomfortable every time he steps into the box. As the conversation about the lineup continues, another important element starts to enter the discussion, and that is the balance between power and consistency at the plate. In modern baseball, teams are constantly searching for hitters who can deliver both, but finding that perfect combination is not always simple. A player who can hit the ball out of the park 25 or 30 times in a season will always attract attention, but the real value often comes from what happens in the other hundreds of plate appearances throughout the year. Getting on base, putting the ball in play, and creating opportunities for teammates can sometimes have just as much impact as a towering home run. That is why there is so much curiosity around how the numbers will evolve this season. Last year offered a glimpse of the power potential, but the batting average remained an area where improvement could unlock an entirely different level of production. Even a small increase in average can change the entire outlook for a player. Moving from the mid-240s into the mid-260s might not sound dramatic on paper, but over the course of a long season, that difference means dozens of additional times reaching base. Those extra opportunities can lead to more runs, more rallies, and more pressure on opposing pitchers. For a team trying to build a dangerous offense, that type of incremental improvement can be incredibly valuable. Imagine a hitter who still launches more than 20 home runs, but also finds a way to consistently reach base with singles, doubles, and disciplined at-bats. Suddenly, he is no longer just a power threat sitting in the lineup waiting for one big swing. Instead, he becomes a complete offensive presence, someone who can contribute in different ways depending on the situation of the game. Situational hitting is another concept that often separates good hitters from great ones. Baseball is full of moments where the smartest play is not the biggest swing. Sometimes the goal is simply to drive a ball into the outfield to score a runner from third. Other times, it is about hitting a ground ball to the right side to move a runner into scoring position. These moments do not always show up on highlight reels, but inside the clubhouse, they are valued just as much as the long ball. A lineup built with players who understand those moments can create constant pressure from the first inning to the ninth. One encouraging sign from recent performances has been the growing ability to read situations and adjust accordingly. Instead of trying to become the hero with one massive swing, there have been moments where the approach looks more controlled. When the bases are loaded, the focus shifts to simply putting a solid swing on the right pitch and driving it somewhere productive. Sometimes it results in a double down the line. Other times it might just be a well-placed single through the infield, but the result is the same: runs crossing the plate and momentum shifting toward the offense. Another layer to this discussion is pitch selection. Major league pitchers are constantly studying hitters, looking for patterns they can exploit. If a hitter becomes predictable, attacking every pitch in the strike zone without hesitation, pitchers will quickly adjust and start setting traps. But a batter who learns patience, who waits for the pitch he truly wants to attack, becomes much more difficult to handle. Suddenly, the pitcher is the one feeling the pressure, knowing that one mistake could be launched deep into the stands. Developing that discipline at the plate is one of the biggest steps in a young player's evolution. It requires trust in the process and confidence that the right pitch will eventually come. When that patience combines with natural power, the results can be explosive. A well-chosen swing on a pitch in the perfect location can produce the type of contact that electrifies a stadium and energizes an entire dugout. At the same time, there is another part of the game that sometimes flies under the radar, and that is defense. While most of the headlines focus on what happens in the batter's box, a player's ability to impact the game in the field can be just as important. Strong defense can prevent runs, shift momentum, and give pitchers the confidence to attack the strike zone without fear. One of the most impressive aspects that has started to emerge recently is the strength of the throwing arm. Outfield plays have already shown flashes of what that arm can do. Runners trying to take an extra base have quickly discovered that testing that arm can be a risky decision. The throws are not just powerful, they are accurate, arriving exactly where they need to be with impressive speed. When an outfielder can consistently deliver that kind of precision, it changes how opposing teams approach the bases. Runners become more cautious, base coaches hesitate before waving someone home, and suddenly a single to the outfield does not automatically turn into an aggressive attempt for an extra base. That kind of defensive presence quietly saves runs over the course of a season. Even when a runner decides not to challenge the arm, the impact is still there because the threat alone changes behavior on the field. Versatility is another quality that makes a player incredibly valuable to a team. Being able to handle multiple defensive positions gives the coaching staff flexibility when constructing the lineup. Whether the need is in the outfield or somewhere in the infield, having a player who can step into different roles and still perform at a high level provides stability throughout the roster. Injuries, rest days, and matchup strategies become easier to manage when a player can adapt without losing effectiveness. As the team continues preparing for the upcoming season, these different elements begin to paint a picture of what the next step could look like. The power is already proven, the swing adjustments are showing results, and the defensive tools are starting to stand out more with each passing game. What remains now is turning those flashes into consistent production over a full schedule of games. If that progression continues, the lineup could gain a player capable of influencing games in multiple ways. A hitter who can launch the ball deep into the night sky, but also deliver a timely single when the situation demands it. A defender who discourages runners from taking chances and shuts down extra bases with a powerful, accurate throw. A versatile presence who can slide into different positions without hesitation and maintain the same level of impact. Those are the types of players every contender hopes to develop, and watching that evolution unfold over the course of a season can be one of the most fascinating storylines in baseball. Every series, every at-bat, every defensive play becomes another step in the journey of a player discovering just how far his talent can take him. And as the games continue to unfold, the expectations will only continue to grow with every swing of the bat and every throw across the field. But before we move forward, don't forget to join our channel and give this video a like. Your support helps us keep delivering the latest news about the Los Angeles Dodgers. We'd love to hear your thoughts on the news, so drop a comment below. The sound of trumpets echoed through the humid Caribbean air, and suddenly the whispers surrounding Edwin grew louder than ever. What was supposed to be a routine arrival quickly turned into something that felt closer to a coronation. Fans gathered in Puerto Rico greeted the star with music, cheers, and an energy usually reserved for championship celebrations. But beneath the festive atmosphere lies a question that is beginning to ripple across baseball circles. Could this be the beginning of a dramatic new chapter with the Dodgers? Sources close to the situation insist that Edwin's reception was not just a spontaneous display of affection from local fans. Some insiders believe the celebration carried symbolic weight, almost like a farewell to his current situation and a preview of something bigger waiting on the horizon. The Dodgers, always aggressive when it comes to assembling elite talent, have reportedly been monitoring the Puerto Rican standout for some time. And while no official move has been announced, the growing buzz around the league suggests conversations may be happening behind the scenes. Witnesses described an atmosphere that felt almost theatrical. Trumpets blared as Edwin stepped forward, smiling but composed, acknowledging the crowd that seemed eager to celebrate both his past and what might come next. Several people within the baseball community noted that moments like this often precede major announcements. When a player is embraced like a returning hero before anything has even been confirmed, speculation tends to follow. Within Dodgers circles, the idea of Edwin joining the roster has already sparked debate. Some believe his presence would instantly elevate the team's late-game dominance, adding a dramatic flair that fits perfectly with the franchise's high expectations. Others caution that the rumors may simply be fueled by the spectacle of the Puerto Rican celebration itself. Still, in baseball, momentum often begins with whispers. And after the trumpets sounded in Puerto Rico, those whispers about Edwin and the Dodgers suddenly feel a lot louder. That's all for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay up to date with exclusive news about the Los Angeles Dodgers, be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that like button. We always appreciate your comments and feedback. See you in the next video.